and welcome to the SaVeg Podcast. I'm Rose, and I'm a content creator going by the handle Cheap Lazy Vegan, and I also own a vegan cafe by the same name as the podcast, which is SaVeg Cafe.
And I'm Daniel, also a vegan and one of your favorite guest stars on Cheap Lazy Vegan's YouTube channel.
We're two friends currently living in different countries, and we'll be giving our savage take on all things life, veganism, and the latest trending topics.
So basically, whatever comes to our minds, because we love to talk.
You are currently listening to the previous episode of this podcast, but if you would like to listen to this week's episode and get some exclusive content, go over to patreon.com/thesavagepodcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the SaVeg Podcast.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, guys. So, Rose, do you know what our lovely topic is for today?
I think we're talking about modern romance, are we not?
We are, but I thought we'd do like a little, not like a spin. We're still going to talk about modern romance, but there's a big section of modern romance, which is like talking about different cultures and international love. And I thought...
Oh, goddamn. You want to talk about the international love.
I do. And I was thinking, because you and me are such international love connoisseurs and experts of internationally dating, that we could...
Oh, goddamn.
Deep dive into this interesting topic, you know?
Well, for those of you that are just listening, you do have no idea what we're talking about and why we're so crazy. Well, we did an episode of... What was it, like 2 or 3 episodes ago, maybe?
Yeah.
Where we discussed the book Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. And it's basically a book about, the modern dating sphere and why it's so hard to find love.
Oh, God damn. It's so difficult.
And today is the continuation of that discussion because we have a lot to say about this topic.
Exactly. We have so much to say. And it is a really it's an interesting one because, again, it looks at how... especially like technology and everything, and also like our cultures and everything is shifting, and how that's impacted and changed the face of modern romance. What it's like to be dating. On that note, I actually do have a little rant before we start.
You have a rant?
Yeah, about dating.
Is it regarding the dating apps?
It is about the dating apps. I'm so angry and so frustrated.
Oh my God. Well, can we just say that we are both on the apps now?
Oh shit. Oh, God damn. I didn't know we were going to get that personal, Rose. God
damn. I just came out as being on the dating apps.
Oh, God damn.
I just came out.
I just came out as well. I just came out. I'm on a dating app, guys. I'm going to tell my parents.
It's been a while since I've been on the apps. And let me just tell you that it's not a fun time sometimes.
It's a barrel of
laughs,
rant? Yeah.
I'll let you rant first.
So basically, so I'm back in Calgary, for those of you that don't know. I'm doing my 14-day quarantine. And of course, I was a little bored and I was like, you know what I'm going to do is for when I'm out of quarantine, I want to set up maybe some dates. And, I'm in Calgary at least for a while. So I kind of want to see what happens romantic wise. I'm open to relationships. So see what happens. For any of those listeners, that's single, feel free to slide into my DMs.
How many male listeners do we have, you think? I think most of our listeners are female.
This is true. It's a very small percentage. I think on the stats, it was 9% or something. So
yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm back in Calgary, in my quarantine. I thought, you know what, I'm going to reactivate my dating profile and I'm just going to go for it. See what's out there, see what new options. Cause I haven't dated in Calgary for over 6 years. So
oh my God, for a long time.
I was a young 25-year-old man when I was dating in this city. So want to see what's new, right? So as you do, download the apps. I only downloaded one. I'm sticking to one for now because I want to oh, God damn. You cold. No.
God damn, I just like having a blanket with me. You know that.
Oh, God. That's true. I have a sweater because I'm in my basement and it's a little chilly. So, but yeah, so, downloaded one app. I'm sticking to one for now because I want to I feel like when I was in London, for example, I'd have multiple dating apps going and then it gets really crazy because then you have multiple conversations on multiple apps and it just gets to be too much, Well,
Daniel said to me that he's trying to decrease the jam problem. And I told him, well, the jam problem is only a problem when you have lots of choices.
Yeah, that's so true. So for those of you that didn't listen to the previous podcast, really, really quick thing is basically the whole theory of the jam problem is basically, to sum it up, the more options you have, the harder it is to make a decision, basically.
Basically, the more samples of jam you give out, the less likely people are going to buy the jam, okay? So basically, you want to decrease the sample size of jam so that people buy the jam. And in this case, jam is men.
People. But it's interesting too, because they said that the jam problem as well is the more options you have, the more likely you are to sample many different types of jam, but never buy.
So we're sampling the jam, Daniel. We're sampling the jam. We're never going to buy it.
There's not much to sample here in Calgary, let me tell you.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like the jam issue is not an issue here, is what I'm saying. It was definitely an issue in London. Definitely an issue in London.
This is the thing in London, like dating can be really fun, but at the same time, it's almost overwhelming because there's so many
much
options.
Just too much jam.
Too much jam. You don't know what you're doing. It's like, you're talking to one jam, another jam comes out the corner, and you're just...
You got to taste that jam too,
Exactly.
Next thing you know, there's just too many different kinds of jam.
And next thing you know, it's a jam explosion.
Yeah, and you only have one piece of toast. What are you going to do?
Well, this is... Oh my God.
I love this random analogy.
I know, it's so good.
I'm just going to use it all the time. I'm just going to be like, there's just too much jam.
Oh God.
It's so true though. In a big city, that is a huge issue. That's definitely what I found in London when I was living there. And you're right. Like dating is really fun because again, I'm just out there just tasting all the jam. And then, when it comes to actually maybe committing to someone, you don't want to. Too much more jam out there to try.
The interesting thing is, I think you're right. Like, especially in big cities like London, like New York. The interesting thing, I'm going to finish going on this rant and then later we'll talk about it. But the interesting thing is that's not always the case in bigger cities. So we're going to take a little deep dive later into what dating is like in Tokyo.
I see.
And we'll talk about some of the things that go on there. So it's partly the jam issue, but then also there can be cultural things that are going on in a country that can also really impact the dating scene, which is interesting. But
right, so you want to finish your rant? Okay.
Yes, I do. I really want to finish my rant.
I can't wait.
I'm so angry, okay? Like,
okay, tell me why you're angry. Tell me everything.
The thing that frustrates me is I'll be on the apps, right? The app. And I will match
Tinder.
with people.
Is it Tinder, Daniel?
It is Tinder, yeah.
In case you guys want to match Daniel, he's on Tinder.
Yeah, but it means that I have to like them too,
Oh, shit.
Just kidding. Just throwing a little shade there. No, but so like you're on Tinder, right? You match with somebody. Exciting. You're like, yay. And the thing is, because I'm new in Calgary, anyone that's like matching with me, they would have had to be using the app in the last couple of weeks because my profile wouldn't have been on there otherwise, right? So it does tell me that they're also relative. Because I know sometimes people will say, oh, if you're on there for a couple of years or like a year, there'll be like old profiles that you might match with, but they haven't been on the profile for a long time. So I know for one, these people are relatively active, right? And
right.
So I've matched with a few people and I've started to take the initiative where I'm like, okay, before I would like sometimes wait and see if someone would like message me or whatever. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put myself out there and start proactively messaging people. So I send them a nice message, so I've had two things happen. So number one, no one responds. Yeah. And I'm like, what is the point of having this app and matching with people if you're not even going to like respond or anything else? So I'm going to give it a little bit more time and then I'm just going to start unmatching people because I'm like, it's just a waste of time if there's no conversation to be had. And I just don't get why people do that. Like
maybe they're just on it. Maybe they just like download it for fun. And then they're just like, let's just swipe and see how many likes I get. I heard guys do that sometimes. I'm like, that's just sad.
Well, I heard it. I know. Well, one of my friends, I'm not saying any names, but him and his girlfriend, they used to go on Tinder just to see how many people they would get to like match with.
Oh,
no.
Find a threesome.
No. Oh,
I've had that happen where someone's like, would you be interested in, in joining me and my girlfriend? Yes, I've had that multiple times actually. Do I give out some kind of?
I think you're giving out those vibes.
How many times, Daniel?
Oh, I've had it in person.
I've had it in person on the apps. Are we just giving out some vibe?
Maybe we give out like these kind of like, I think because we did talk about this before.
Slutty
like maybe
vibes?
We give out these like, no, not slutty, but like I guess kind of, but like no, like kind of like free spirited and kind of like I
I see. Yes.
Yeah.
Like not conservative.
Exactly. Because I've actually had it quite a few times. And I also thought to myself, like I had it when I was traveling.
But you're also gay though. Doesn't it happen often when you're gay? Or does it happen to you sometimes with straight couples? Like,
it was all straight couples that have asked.
Oh shit.
So it's a bit like, whoa.
So then what would you do? Do they know that you're gay?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious.
Well, some people are pretty blind, Daniel, or deaf.
That's true.
The library is open today, Daniel. The library is open.
Oh, God damn. The shade is real from you, Rose. Thorn is out to play, okay? Oh, God
Thorn
damn.
is not playing around, is what it is.
No. I wasn't ready for your thorny side this afternoon.
Oh, Daniel, Continue. So they don't respond.
They don't respond.
That's problem number one.
Problem number one is they don't respond. So I'm like, hey, well, get off the app. And for those of you that are listening, if you're using these apps for like a fun little game, don't. Because there are
stop wasting people's time.
Exactly. There's people on there that are trying to make real connections, and you're fucking it up for everyone. Thank you. And then the second problem that I have is I'll match with somebody and I'll say something like ask a question or whatever else, and I do get a response, and the response is very, very basic. Answers the question. That's it. Doesn't ask me anything.
Does not follow up.
Doesn't ask me. Yeah, like the recent one that I wrote was like asking like, oh, how are you? How are you coping with this like stressful situation that's been going on with the coronavirus? Blah, 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 blah. And the response was just, hey, getting through it or something. Full stop.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I can totally relate to this second issue because I've had the same. We've been ranting about this.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, can you get a personality? I would like a personality, please. It's like, if I ask you a question, can you please learn how to have a conversation? I assume you've been on this earth for 30 years. You know how to have a conversation, but clearly you do not know how to have a motherfucking conversation.
Exactly. And it's even just like out of like not kindness, but like if I'm asking
courtesy.
You how you're coping with this situation, are you not going to flip it on its head and say, well, what about you? How are you finding it? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Just common.
But maybe it's a good thing because then that helps you weed them out. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, this bitch has no personality. This bitch doesn't know how to, continue a conversation like a normal human being. But the number of people, what I notice is that the number of people that are incapable of continuing a, just a little bit of back and forth is like astonishing. It's like, it's gotten progressively worse, I think.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember having this issue back then,
No. It could be that like a lot of people, I think a big problem is that maybe a lot of the people that are on these apps aren't taking it seriously. So that's one thing. They're kind of playing it as more of a game. And then also,
I think that is probably what it is.
Yeah. And maybe there's something to be said about the fact that maybe some of these people are just not great digital communicators and maybe they are better in person. I don't know. But like, you're right. It shouldn't be like pulling teeth to get somebody to have a freaking conversation. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's actually ridiculous.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It is true that some people are, of course, digital communication, like I've said, Daniel is terrible at, but you're not actually that terrible compared to some of these people, clearly. But digital communication is very different. But at the same time, when you're on an app where you are supposed to connect from a text by text basis until you can actually have a conversation, you would expect them to make at least semi of an effort, especially with catches such as us,
Well, exactly.
It's like, excuse me.
You would think, you know what I mean?
Do you know how awesome we are?
Well, at the end of the day, Rose, I look at it like this and I think to myself, yes, as frustrating as it is and as frustrating as, this, oh God, anyway, it's their loss, right? So,
yes,
for those of you that are watching, if any of you have been one of our potential matches and you've not engaged in a conversation, too bad for you.
Or maybe you've
missed out on some pretty fun times. Oh, this is true.
In that case, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we apologize. No, but I think that there's something to be said that maybe in some ways we're still a little bit too picky. I don't know.
Okay, no, this is not a matter of being picky. Okay, when you're on these apps, okay, no, I do get it. Like when I'm on these apps, right? It is probably like 1 out of like 100 that I might, like. Okay? So yeah, I am a bit picky, and like it's unfortunate because you only have so much to go by, and it is like we discussed before, where it's kind of like a catalog. You can't really look at someone, you know, as a human, as if you're picking out like a product. But that's kind of what this app, you know, that's kind of what our culture has led us to do, because that's all we have to go by.
Yeah.
So it is unfortunate because, I mean, I bet you like, you know, a lot of these people that we might swipe, you know, left on or whatever it is, like we might reject on these apps. Maybe if we actually talk to them in person, we might actually, you know, fall for them. But it's unfortunate.
Well, there's a lot to be said. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, we did kind of touch on this on the last episode as well, because this is part of the book, The Modern Romance. But they talked about how the more we commodify. The more that we commodify dating, and you're right, like we have certain criteria that we would pick in a partner, or you know, physical attributes and things like that, and we're treating them like almost like a product. And a lot of people that they like surveyed and did interviews with, a lot of them had met their partner maybe outside of the app, and they said like, you know, if this person was on the app, I might have swiped left to them and not actually even given them the time of day, because they weren't necessarily what my boxes were, but I fell for them when I met them. So, you know, it's crazy.
But I mean, that you could say the same thing. It's not just the app, but you could say the same thing about meeting someone like at a bar or something. Like half the time it's like you only have their appearance to go by. So the only way you can actually like genuinely, you know, connect with somebody is if you actually just got to know people just generally, like as friends or as coworkers. Yeah. But if you're just meeting people like in a bar or on an app for romantic purposes, then you only have certain things to go by at that moment. So unless you want to give everyone a chance.
Yeah, true.
And I'm sorry, ain't nobody got time for that.
No, it's so true.
Like, it's the unfortunate result.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I do feel like there's something to be said. Like, you know, I'm not saying that I'm picky or whatever else, but like, you know, there are certain people that I'm going to be naturally attracted to. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like sometimes you can't. What's that?
I said you are picky.
I'm not that picky. Come on. They just have to be nice and, you know, physically attractive and...
I think you're shallow. You are a little bit.
Okay.
You like guys in a shallow way.
Yeah, but if they end up being like a dick, I'm not going to date them. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, but okay, you know what? Let's not go into your psychological analysis. Let's continue on. Do you have any other more rants?
No, that was the end of my rant. So that's just my current
but you know
frustration.
What? You just have to be patient and just realize that, you know what? These people, the ones that don't respond, are not going to be interesting anyways. So move on.
It's true.
And then, you know, at some point you'll catch a few, you know?
Exactly. It's like,
you'll taste some really special jam.
And then they'll blow your mind, and you'll stick with it.
You'll want to put it on every piece of toast.
Exactly.
Stop.
I can't. I can't with this analogy,
Rose. Finds
Rose.
this jam analogy funny. Anyway.
Yeah. It might just be us.
Okay. So that's the rant about dating apps. Don't waste people's time, people. Exactly. If you're not going to talk to them or have a conversation or learn how to ask a question, then don't use those motherfucking apps.
Exactly. Get off them.
Bitch.
Don't waste our time.
Yeah. Go fucking find someone off the street. Okay. Stop wasting people's time on these goddamn motherfucking apps. Especially when they are engaging you in conversation.
Exactly.
You know?
Or if they're already in relationships, don't waste our time on the apps either. You know what I mean? Like you already have somebody. You're being greedy now.
That is so that's extra annoying.
I know.
It should be illegal.
It should
lock these people up.
They should be locked out of these apps and not allowed.
Oh God.
But I guess for those people that are looking for threesomes, then I guess the apps are a good way to go. But still, just get off. Threesomes are different.
Yeah, if you're looking for a threesome, sure. You know what? Maybe there should be an app for that. Okay,
there should be.
There should be a separate app for threesome people.
Yeah,
maybe there are. I don't know.
They can do their own thing elsewhere. You know.
But if you're in a relationship and you just need an ego boost, just don't. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway.
So the topic for today, as I mentioned before, is all around kind of like international romance, I guess. And I guess because me and Rose, we both spent some time living abroad, specifically in London. So Rose has lived in London. I've also lived in London. And then I lived in Spain. And then you did some exchanges too, Rose. Were you like dating actively during the exchange?
Or not really? I was living in Italy and Singapore.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really dating. It was more, just fun stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I was just partying, okay?
Yeah.
I was just partying.
No, exactly.
And I was traveling. I wasn't like dating. I wasn't there to like meet, a boyfriend,
This was kind of like me in Spain, to be honest. Like, I mean, in London, I was a bit more serious, like on the apps and everything else. And in Spain, I was just kind of like, going out, drinking, partying, having a good time. So
it was like
a
you're on
little bit
vacation.
Different.
Yeah,
exactly.
Different.
It was like vacation vibes. So Modern Romance goes into a few different cities globally around the world, which I found really, really interesting. And I thought we could kick off our world tour in a city that you would think, because again, we talked about, bigger cities, there's a lot of stuff going on and, there's lots to do. It's very vibrant. There's lots of people there, lots of jam, as Rose likes to say. So you think that dating would be, really interesting and lots going on, like it was in London and probably I would assume New York. So the city that we're going to talk about is Tokyo.
Tokyo.
So the interesting thing with Tokyo, which I find really, really fascinating, is so again, it's Tokyo, as many of you know, it's a booming metropolis, lots of stuff going on.
In Japan, in case you did not know that.
That's true, in Japan, yeah. But however, they're actually facing, and at least and I'm sure it still reigns true today, because I know that the book was done in, I think, 2014 or 15. So some of the stats might be a little bit old, but I think that they still hold true today. Yeah. They're actually having a crisis in Japan, where so much so that the government is getting involved. So
what is the crisis, Daniel? Tell us the crisis.
So I'm going to throw some little stats here, and I want to, these stats, honestly, I almost.
Did you not know this? Did you not know that Japan had these issues?
Well, I knew that they had the issue of a declining population. So an aging population, basically. That I did know. What I didn't know is the extent of how bad it was of young people not getting into relationships and having kids. Because my whole mentality is just that there was a lot less young people. So they were still getting together and having kids. But the older generation was basically the aging population.
Oh, okay. So you thought that the problem was because of the aging population, which is why less kids were being born. You didn't know that it was just people just didn't want to have babies.
Exactly. Right. I didn't realize to how the degree of this craziness. Like, I'm going to read these stats, and Daniel. they're like mind blowing.
These stats, are they from the book?
Yeah, so they're from the book, and
so they have shifted a little bit, but
yeah, so exactly. So a lot of these stats were around 2013, 2014. So just keep that in mind. So some of the numbers might be a little bit off, but it does kind of highlight really specifically the problem. And in fact, that this whole the whole fact that this love situation is considered a crisis by the government is pretty crazy. So as of 2013. 45% of women between the ages of 16 to 24 were not interested in or despised sexual contact. And, and a quarter of men felt the same way.
That's crazy.
We're talking about young people. Like, think about us when we were in our 16 to 20s, early 20s. I mean, maybe I speak for myself, but that was a time of, ravenous hormones and,
Do you think it's partially that they are just afraid? I think that's what it more so is, right?
It could be that. I think that's a part of it. I think that's a big part of it. One of the things that they mentioned in the book is there's a number of issues which we'll go into as to why this has happened specifically in Japan. But one of them that they said is a lot of the time when Japanese kids are growing up, they're segregated. So the men are in, or the boys are in one school, the girls are in another. And what this causes, and this is even in the co-ed schools, they're still in separate classes and stuff. So there's not a lot of mingling. Yeah. So it creates this, you're not used to interacting with members of the opposite sex. And, I don't know. It's a tough one. And I think you're right.
I don't think that's what it is, though, because the thing is, that's how it was in a lot of Korean schools, for example. When my parents were young, they all went to their own gender school. So my mom went to a women's school or a girls' school, and my dad went to a boys' school. And that was not a problem at that time. So I think that's partially.
That's
but
part
I think
of it,
that's part of why, but it's also, it's not at all the majority of the reason, because if that was the case, then like our parents' generation would not have had kids either. But it's the fact that it's all of that compiled with so many other factors, like, you know, society, like social awkwardness, like what's the word? Social anxiety, which a lot of people face. I think,
social
in
anxiety.
Japan.
Yeah.
Continue. Give me some more stats.
Well, we're kind of going all over the place, but it's totally fine, like always. I'll read another stat in a minute, but you're right. Like with regards to the men and the women, that's one factor, is the fact that they're kind of separated a little bit. So that contributes. You're right, it's not everything, but it contributes. So that's one. Another thing that they mentioned in Japan, which is a really, really big issue, is back in the day, there's this whole shift of gender roles, which I guess because really in traditional like Japanese households, it was like the man was like the successful businessman that took care of the family. The woman stayed at home with the kids. And this is shifting so much. And it's said that like Japanese men are really struggling to grasp this new identity of, you know, not necessarily being the primary breadwinner or being on an equal level with women. They're kind of struggling with this kind of identity. So that's another part of it. There's more to it, but which we'll go into in a little bit. So I'll just throw out some more fun stats just to kind of show how crazy this situation is. And I'm sure it's not just isolated to Japan, but Japan's just such a good example of this. So some more stats. So people aged 18 to 34, not involved with anyone from the opposite sex, has risen from 1987. So in 1987, this was 49% for men, and it's risen now to 61% for men. So that's 61% of men age 18 to 34 not involved with anyone from the opposite sex. And for women, this has risen from 39% to 49%. So that means 50% basically of Japanese women between 18 and 34 are not involved with anyone of the opposite sex.
Right.
So,
oh God. Yeah.
And a third of Japanese people under 30 have never dated.
A third of Japanese people under 30 have never dated.
Never. Whew. Yeah. Ever.
See, this is really,
they said
it's so interesting.
There was another stat here. I'm going to throw one more thing out here.
So like literally,
okay, I'll keep throwing them. This is the last one pretty much. And basically in Japan, obviously like the Japanese government and stuff is worried, like legitimately worried about running out of Japanese people because, for example, they said by 2060, the number of Japanese people will go from approximately 127 million. So that number might have changed by now. I don't know how many people live there, to 87 million by 2060. And 40% of those will be 65 or over.
Oh God. That is so bad.
So, I mean, that's like
this is a full-on crisis.
It's a huge, huge, huge crisis. So much so that like the government has like stepped in. They're like, okay, we need to start taking action here because, you know, Japanese people in general are not getting together, you know, like what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, so 25 million of the 2014 fiscal government budget was allocated to dating services in Japan. Like
funded by the government. Isn't that insane? Yeah.
This is what's crazy. I mean, this just shows you.
But it is an actual crisis, right? Because if you go to 2060 and however much percentage of people if the great majority of people are, you know, seniors. Yeah. That is a huge problem for that government.
Exactly.
And the economy.
They said 40% will be 65 or over. So
that's
basically,
like almost half.
Almost half of the population will be 65 or over. And generally those people are going to be retired or, you know, finishing their last couple years at work. So they're more like not as productive members of the economy, right? So more of a kind of drain, I guess. So Japan has some serious issues.
I find Japan very fascinating because obviously, because I'm from Korea, so I kind of know a little bit about Korea. And Korea also has actually a very similar problem, but also I think very different at the same time. Yeah. Korea and Japan are always compared, but I think culturally we are very different, but also there's a lot of similarity. Yeah. So for example, Koreans are also having a bit of a crisis with people not having kids. But I think with Korea, it's less so that people don't want to have relationships, because I don't think that's a problem. It's like, a lot of Koreans are in relationships. A lot of Korean people, Korean dramas are all about relationships. Everyone is obsessed with love and they want to be in relationships. But realistically, having babies and having kids has become such a financial burden on most people. So because of the economy and the state of the economy and how most young people are having a hard time finding a job and having a hard time staying employed, they are not feeling ready to have kids. And it is very expensive to raise kids in Korea because the cost of education there is extreme compared to other places. So I think some of that is same in Japan, but then we have that issue plus the issue of people literally just being afraid of the opposite sex, which seems to be a very uniquely Japanese problem.
It's really interesting. I mean, another thing that they talked about, they do talk in this book about the Japanese economy as well. And it's another similar thing because they were saying prior to World War II, it was really common for people to get set up by the family, have these arranged marriages and whatever else. I think it was approximately, they said about 70%, and that was down to 6.2% now. So a huge change is not having these kind of arranged style marriages. But what took that over for a little while was meeting people at work. Now, the reason that they theorize why this isn't happening as much is because, and this might be the same in Korea as well, but in Japan, for example, its economy, I mean, Japan has a pretty decent economy, right? But it's super, super, super competitive now to get work and jobs. So for the Japanese people, the workplace is becoming less of a kind of fun place where they're meeting people to being more very strictly about work. There's less work events and mixers and all these kind of things because people are super, super focused on work because, of how competitive it's gotten. So less people are now having time to meet in the workplace.
Right.
And actually, this was brought up in the focus group as well that they had with Japanese men and women. And one of the things that the guy said, which I thought was interesting, was one of the direct quotes was that he's working. He was a working man. And he said, well, I'm working now. So I don't have time for a girlfriend.
Right.
He was a 24-year-old guy that was I'm working. I have no time I can't have a girlfriend. I have no time. I'm always working.
So sad.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is, again, uniquely Japanese thing, but one of the things I really liked that came out of the focus groups is this idea of the herbivore man and the carnivore woman.
Did they actually say carnivore woman? Is that actually a term?
It's actually a thing.
This is a very uniquely Japanese thing. They coined this term herbivore men. There's a lot of things that are very uniquely Japanese because this is a very uniquely Japanese cultural issue. But one of the issues is the herbivore men where, first of all, I hate this terminology, but whatever. It's kind of funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Basically, the idea is it's kind of similar to saying soy boy, I guess, in Western culture, where you kind of there are these men that are seen as effeminate. Is that the term? And they're not very dominant and they're not very, I guess, they're very passive when it comes to pursuing women, as in they don't.
Well, exactly. The way they talked about it is basically men who are really, really shy, really, really passive. The interesting thing is they all indicated it said that they showed some interest in relationships and stuff, but they're very, very, it's quite an interesting, I'm not dichotomy, but basically one of the young guys that was there was okay, during the week he's working. And then on the weekend he would go out with his friend to the bar, for drinks. And then Aziz was well, is this not a place that you can meet potential women and stuff? And he was well, yeah, but he's if a girl, he's too shy to approach a girl, right? Because there's that whole fear of rejection and a bit nervous and anxious about it. But at the same time, the guys in the focus groups commented that if a girl came and approached him and gave him the number, they wouldn't like that because that's kind of sleazy. And they're looking for this, I'm going to say this wrong, but they're looking for a girl that is siso or seiso, which means pure, a really sweet, innocent girl. And they say this.
There's the problem right there.
Yeah. They said if a girl's so open and smiling and winking to them at a bar or giving them numbers, it's just they wouldn't want their girlfriend to be like that. And they'd be embarrassed to introduce her to their family.
Yeah. And basically, there's the problem right there. I think the problem, one of the biggest problems with cultures for example, Japan, obviously, again, there's some uniquely Japanese issues, but again, similar kind of issues in Korea as well, is that these cultures are incredibly traditional and conservative in nature. And these cultures are, Japan and Korea are both, I believe, part of what is called like the tiger economies of Asia, where the economies, they basically exploded in the last few decades.
Yeah.
So basically it's completely changed from when my parents were young. It was a completely different world in Korea and in Japan. And because of this huge boost in the economy and technology and all of these things, all of a sudden you see in just a few decades, in just one generation, these countries in Asia have become global powerhouses and now are pretty much on the same economic playing field as, a Western civilization with less conservative, ideologies. So now we have like conservative Asia meets the economic powerhouse of, the new, years.
The new world.
The new world. And I think that is where there's so much clash because on one hand, everyone's working and we're all living this like, modern world life. And then on the other hand, you have these men that don't want women to approach them, but also they've been also kind of coddled in that they're not actually like, the traditional manly man. So they can't go up to them.
Exactly. It's a really funny point to bring up that I just remembered from the book as well. This was another issue, is that a lot of these men, they stay at home for a very long time. And what happens is the typical like Japanese mother would like, and you say coddle is like a perfect word, is that they would just literally do everything for these guys. And because they're used to their mom, like being there, like doing their laundry, cooking their meals, doing everything, they're really like, they haven't matured. Maybe matured is the wrong word, but they're just kind of like in this kind of like almost like an infant state. And that's why they're nervous to approach women and all of this stuff, because it builds this kind of like anxiety, So
totally.
It's kind of the perfect storm in Japan, because if you take the flip side, so you have the men this situation going on with the men, the herbivore man, right? then you have an opposite situation happening with the women, because now, in the last kind of 20, 30, 40, 50 years, women are really getting into the workplace. Right. They're liking having careers. They don't want to be necessarily the traditional stay-at-home mom, making the dinners, doing all this stuff. And actually, a lot of the women in the focus groups, interestingly enough, they are reflecting that they want the men to take more action. They wanted them to step up, ask them out. And one of them quoted, which I thought was quite funny, that the Japanese men's need of constant assurance and comforting is really, really irritating to these carnivorous women.
Why are they called carnivorous? Because they're like on the prowl? Is that why?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, and they're probably not sure. Even. They're probably just like, they're probably still really, girly and just, compared to Western women, they're probably not carnivorous at all. And, but in that context and in that culture where they're expected to be like, hello, oh my God, hi, kawaii, all that shit, then like, they're expected to behave that way. So even anything outside of that is considered like not feminine and not, attractive. And that's really interesting. But it's so sad, and it creates a major clash.
Huge, because if you have the men going in one direction, the women going in the other, no one's meeting in the middle now, and it's getting such a mess. One of the girls actually mentioned, and this is just kind of like showing you like isolated incidents, but I think it's like what is happening more and more often. But one girl in the focus group, she said it's really, really difficult. Like she has approached guys in the past, given her number, and there might be some texting back and forth, but even the guys are so shy and anxious that when they're texting, it's never like flirty or anything. It's like very like matter of fact, like very
formal.
So one example that they said is this guy was asking this girl how to cook a cabbage. So he like texted her and was like asking her how to cook a cabbage. And I guess Aziz was like, oh, was this kind of like a cute way to like invite you over for dinner or something? And she was like, no, he just wanted to know how to cook the cabbage.
His mom wasn't there to tell him.
Exactly. His parents were on vacation and he was struggling because he was making his first homemade meal at 33 years old, needed some help with that cabbage.
Oh God. And another thing is, I love how we went from wanting to talk about modern dating to just talking about just dissecting the Japanese cultural situation. But I love it. You know, I could talk about Japan all day, every day. It's so interesting. There's so many, I saw this one, there was like a documentary on YouTube. It was like a YouTube, I don't know, something on YouTube about this situation about like herbivore men. And so I don't know if it was Vice or I don't know. It was something. And this guy went to Japan and he was like hanging out with these like two guys that were like comedians, and they, and you know, they're both, I think they both identified as herbivore men or whatever. And they would go out, and one time they actually went out and did like there was some kind of, you know, event where they could go and meet women. So, you know, they were sat down with like, you know, maybe there was like 3 guys and 3 girls in the table, and they were having a good time. And then at the end, no one got anyone's number or something like that. And then they were just like, oh yeah, like I can't remember the reason, but it was just so like, basically, you know, they're just too shy or too nervous.
Well, it's interesting because those particular dates, those dating events. So there's like 2 that they talked about in Modern Romance. I don't know if there's more, but like there's the very traditional one. And again, I apologize for any of our Japanese listeners if I pronounce this wrong, but it was called Gokan. And it was a traditional form of dating where basically, like, let's say I was straight, first of all, and I was with my friends, my guy friends. We would go with a group of, like, let's say you were one of my friends, like as a girl, and you would bring your girlfriends, I would bring my guy friends, and we'd all go for like dinner and drinks and everything else. Now, this was the traditional kind of back in the day thing that they would do. However, given the fact that a lot of Japanese men don't have Japanese girl friends, it becomes really difficult for them to be able to even set this up. So there's a modern way of what they're doing, of how they're doing this, called machikan. And basically what this is it's like a big event that happens where you could go by yourself, I could go by myself. And again, you'd sit at a table with a bunch of other singles. So there'd be girls and guys all together at like a dinner. And then they'd kind of go on like a bar crawl almost. And each person would kind of maybe pay to go to these events. Now, the interesting thing...
I think that's what those guys went to. Something like that.
Probably, yeah. And then there'd be organizers that would like rotate people around and make sure that people are like mingling and stuff like this. So this is the interesting thing, as this is where the government has stepped in and they've started actually subsidizing and sponsoring businesses that organize these events. So like to the fact that they're like giving a bit of money like to each of those businesses per head. So essentially the Japanese, what Aziz was saying in the book, which was quite funny, he was like, essentially the Japanese government is spending money for the youth or the younger people to get drunk and, you know, meet people, you know what I mean? Like at these events. Yeah. But it goes,
so does that mean then there are less people there aren't that many people that are participating in these events?
No, I think that people are still participating in the events, but I think you still come back to the dichotomy of the women wanting the men to be more assertive and aggressive, or not aggressive, but like to ask for numbers. And the thing is, they might exchange numbers. But the issue of that was kind of exhibited in this book is that, okay, let's say we're on this thing and I get you're like, you know what? I like this guy, Daniel. Here's my number. I take your number. we might start texting back and forth, but I'm a very like shy, traditional Japanese guy. And I would be like, oh, I'm not going to ask Rose on a date unless I'm 100% confident that she'll say yes. So the back and forth will be like, it might go on for ages about the most meaningless things. Eventually you might just get tired and be like, you know what? Yeah. You know, so that's what's happening.
And then if the girl were to ask him out, he'll be like, "Oh, she's too forward."
Exactly, she's too forward. I couldn't introduce her to my parents. There's no way. She's not a pure woman. Oh my
God!
Yeah.
So the solution is not to fund these programs. The solution is to try and change the perception, and also not to make pansies out of these men. God damn! Seriously.
It's so
That's
funny.
The problem. Well, the problem is that, you know, as women get stronger, the women getting stronger is a good thing. Yeah. But then we also want men that are either just as strong as us or stronger than us, potentially. And I'm not just talking about like physical strength. I'm talking about just like, we still want a guy that's, going to be courageous and assertive and that's what, we're still attracted to. And so
exactly.
Yeah, that is a huge issue because if you're making a bunch of, if all these men are all, too afraid to even ask a girl out, then yeah, the girls are not going to be interested either.
Exactly. Well, and I think you like really hit the nail on the head when you said about the whole like Korea and Japan are these economies that have kind of just exploded, you know what I mean? Become really, really, and they were really traditional countries before, right? So you have that kind of the battling because
and they
I
still
think
are.
Exactly. And I think to some degree, to a much, much lesser degree to Japan and Korea, but I think that this whole identity of men and women, it's happening in North America as well, to a lesser degree
100%.
though, right? So like you said, as women become more powerful, more kind of career driven, everything else, because that had, even in North America, that had been more of a traditional like man's role to take care of the household, with that shifting, it has caused some impacts with dating and stuff, even here in Canada, the US, this kind
even
of places.
Here.
But I think because we weren't as rooted in thousands of years of tradition like Korea and Japan, the problems weren't as exacerbated as they are there.
Yeah, totally.
So
I think that, it's true that even in Canada and in the US, we've seen, for example, that I'm not sure exactly in the US, but I don't know where the statistic is from, but like more women graduate from universities than men. I think that was the number. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think that was the case. Yeah. And that's really interesting because the thing is that, again, traditionally we expect that the man makes more money and the man is more successful. But now we're seeing a huge number of women that are now business women that are successful, that are making lots of money. And they also then expect, because the man's always been used to, having to be the provider, and they like being the provider. They get an ego thing from being the provider. Okay. Yeah. So they don't mind having, a girlfriend that's a waitress or, whatever. Yeah. Or they don't mind having a wife that's staying at home doing nothing. Yeah. However, because traditionally women have always, thought of man being the provider. So we are attracted to that kind of thing as well. Yeah. Maybe naturally, maybe because of society, maybe a mixture of both. Yeah. And then because we're attracted to that, it's hard for very successful women to actually find a mate. It's actually harder, I think, for a more successful woman, to find a mate, because she becomes much more choosy, and all of the men that are not making the same amount of money, or maybe not just money, but are not in the same kind of status or whatever it is, women don't find that necessarily attractive.
It's interesting because I think you're really right on that, in a sense that and of course there's going to be exceptions to the rule, but I think you're right. A lot of the time for a man that becomes, like a CEO, senior, really, really successful, driven, high flyers, everything else. Like you said, they don't mind if their wife is a, stay-at-home mom, or, working, like you said, more of a, less, not that there's anything wrong with waitressing or anything like that, but like less kind of, not ambitious, but like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Less paying job or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Less seen as important in society, even though all jobs are important, but continue.
Whereas on the flip side, you're right. If a woman is in that same position, I think she would be much less likely and not want to maybe date a guy that's, not driven or as successful. So it's an interesting, another dichotomy to be thrown into the world of modern dating and the craziness that is. I mean, I think that's like a huge thing to be said about this whole shift of gender roles. Not even a shift of gender roles, but just the changing dynamics. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I think it'll be interesting maybe in the next couple generations after us. Yeah. Maybe it'll shift because we're kind of in this like in between generation of like, it's still new that women are working and making lots of money.
True.
It's still a very new thing. Even in our parents' generation, it was less likely so. Yeah. So I do think that we are in this in-between stage where, women are still attracted to men that might be more successful than them, and they might want men that make more money. But then maybe in the next 2 generations, maybe that won't be really the case. And we can finally have a society where it's fine if the man is not making as much money, it's fine if the man isn't, X, Y, and Z. And it's okay if a woman is a little bit more assertive. Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah. A little side to
we shall see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So,
well, that's why I'm going to be single forever, because I'll be a powerful carnivorous woman.
You are definitely I
can't even say the word
carnivorous.
Carnivorous. There you go.
Yeah, you be a carnivorous woman.
Even though I'll be a herbivore as hell.
I think you definitely going to be one of those tiger moms when you have them children, Rose. God damn.
Oh, goddamn. I'll be a tiger mom to you already. Well, I ain't going to be coddling my son, okay? If I got a son, goddamn.
You're going to whip him into shape, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. This is why you shouldn't coddle your kids, okay? That's another lesson, okay? Do not coddle your kids.
Especially
Women or boys or girls, do not coddle them.
I think especially once they get to a certain age, like when they're babies, but like once they start growing up, like you see so many examples of like kids that are like in their 20s and their parents still do so much for them. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm living at home right now because I've just moved back to Canada, but like, you know, I'm going to be doing all of my own cooking, cleaning, laundry, everything. Like I'm not going to be, you know, relying on my parents to do that for me. I'm a 32-year-old man. So,
oh, goddamn. But yeah,
so
Japan, very interesting. What else? Anything else about Japan?
Oh God, there's
God. There's another documentary that I watched and it was like, there's so many interesting, if you just go on YouTube and just search like Japan, you'll probably find so many interesting documentaries. Oh, I have another theory about this whole Japan and why there's so many, why people are just so afraid to talk to each other. I think there's an element of culture that's very, this is where Japan and Korea differ vastly, I think. There's a very polite culture in Japan where everyone is very polite. I've never been to Japan, but my parents went and they said when they went, everything was so clean. It was so fantastic because everyone was so nice and polite. But the one problem with that is that it's kind of like a lot of people are afraid to offend, right? So I think when you have too polite of a culture, it becomes, you know, it's kind of like similar in the UK where people are just really polite, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be, what am I trying to say? If it's, you know, we're just too polite to each other, it's going to be hard to make real deep connections. And I think that you end up having a lot of artificial, you know, interactions with people.
Because they're putting on a front.
Exactly.
Right?
Potentially, right? I mean, if you are all expected to be polite, not everyone is polite in nature, but you're expected to put that on for everyone. So it's going to be hard to have connections. And I think that's partially, you know, the reason why a lot of people, again, in Japan, and also that coupled in with all of the extreme technologies that Japan has put out, you know, like having a virtual girlfriend, for example, they had like, have you seen that commercial with the hologram
oh my
girlfriend?
God, yes.
That kind of stuff is very popular in Japan. Like the idea of having like a doll for a girlfriend or like a, you know, a hologram for a girlfriend or whatever for a girlfriend, like a technology, like a robot for a girlfriend. And so people are kind of turning to those artificial things because the thing is we are humans, right? So we crave human interactions. So it is not like Japanese people are not normal humans and that they don't crave human interaction, because if that
100%.
were the case, they would not create these artificial means of interacting with another, you know, with something of like a human.
No, exactly.
Right? So they are craving it.
No, and this is such a good point. It actually really ties into the next part of the Japanese kind of stuff that was talked about. And it's really interesting because another concept that they talked about in Japan is, you're right, it's not that they're not wanting this kind of interaction and stuff. It's just that, again, this whole culture of being shy. Another issue as well that they briefly touched on, which might be different in Korea, I'm not sure, is the fact that even if they are on dating apps, one of the things in Japan, because they're so polite and, you know, all this stuff, and also they're not very big into like self-promotion. So the idea of taking a selfie or a picture of yourself is considered really narcissistic, and it's like not something that was like, it's really frowned upon. So a lot of the dating apps and stuff, for example,
that's not Japan.
No, in Japan, this is the thing. They don't want to, like, for example,
that's not Japan. That's about some other country in the Middle East. I remember this part. Are you sure?
100%.
Did you take proper notes?
I did 100%. No, because they said that like one girl was saying like a lot of the pictures would be like of like rice cookers or like really random stuff. 100% is Japan.
I know.
I literally just listened to this.
Are you sure it wasn't?
100%. So they'd have pictures of like group pictures. Hang on, where does it? 100% it's Japan. So they would have like pictures of people in groups, like where they might be in the picture, or they'd have like pictures of like a cat or like a rice cooker. And it's because they said like if the people are putting lots of selfies and stuff, it's just they're considered really, really narcissistic.
Okay, I'll believe you.
Trust and believe, Rose.
I think the reason why I got confused is because there was another part in the book where they talk about some country in the Middle East, and they were saying that like yeah, it's not normal to take pictures of yourself or post pictures of yourself.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a similar thing, but that one was more of like a religious thing, I think. Like
Yeah,
you
because they're
weren't
not supposed to be on those apps and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, interesting.
So, yeah. And I swear to God, it's true, guys.
Okay,
it was in the
believe
book. So going back to Rose's point, though, about how, the issue isn't that these people aren't craving some kind of human interaction or of this kind of stuff. So there's a concept that I thought was really interesting in Japan, which is the concept of a host or a hostess club. So,
yes.
Yeah. What these were is like, for example, if I was with a bunch of my guy friends or even myself, I could go to a hostess club where I'd have, it's almost like it's not sexual in nature at all, but it would have like almost like geisha style girl that would come and sit with me. She'd pour my tea, maybe give me a shoulder massage. She would hear me out of all my problems. Like it would be someone to talk to. And that whole idea of that fear of rejection is taken away because you're basically paying for the service, right? So you know that she's going to be that kind, sympathetic ear to you while you're having your problems or whatever your basically company. And it's the same for women. There's the host club where they'll go and meet, where there'll be like a more charismatic Japanese guy that will, entertain them. Which again, like, I don't know. It just feels a bit like...
What do you think about that? Is that weird to you? Like, doesn't that sound weird?
I just don't think it sounds weird. I mean, it's a bit strange on first glance. I think to me it's kind of a little bit like not sad.
It is sad.
But yeah, it's a little bit kind of like
they make a lot of money. Those hostesses and hosts. Yeah. Apparently,
God, I should go to Japan and work at a host
you'd
club.
Be very popular over there.
Exactly.
You should be a host.
Yeah.
No, I remember I think they do have a similar thing in Korea as well. Again, I don't think it's as like popular, but I do remember back in the day, like. I don't know if they still have this kind of thing, but it was like really sexist where basically men would go to these like, karaoke bars or something. And then, they would have, I mean, essentially what you would probably call a hostess, like someone coming in, like the waitress would come in and like sit with them and like pour them drinks and like let the guys like, touch them and stuff like that. It's just like, but I don't know. I mean, it's a bit sad.
I think any time, and this goes for like a number of things. It goes for like prostitution, all of this kind of stuff. Like any time that I feel, and again, I might be coming at this at a wrong angle, but like, and feel free to jump in whenever. But I just think to me, it's a little bit. The second that I'm paying for human interaction, I just feel like it's a little sad. Like I'm paying for.
Well, some people need it apparently.
That's true. I mean, you're right.
I think the problem is that we. It's I guess it's the fall of this idea of, again, coming back to the whole capitalist idea of we've created this, again, on the outside, Japan, Korea looks incredibly successful. But then until you actually delve into the societal issues that have come out of all of the success, and a lot of it is because of the success of the economy that a lot of these societal problems came about, because again, like a generation ago, this would not have even crossed anyone's mind that this would be an issue.
Yeah.
That, people are just not even having interactions, not just not having babies, but like not even talking to each other, not even like engaging in relationships with the opposite sex. That is, so many, there's so much wrong with that. And then of course, with that now comes, the capitalist solutions like hostess clubs and, cuddle cafes. Can we talk about that too?
Yeah.
Cuddle cafes?
Oh God. Well, there's another one too. Do you remember them talking about the Soapland?
What is Soapland?
Oh God, Rose, you don't remember Soapland?
Do people just like
put
soap all over you?
Yeah. So basically what happens, so apparently, and again, this could have changed, right? We'll talk about the cuddle bars as well or whatever. Yeah. But Soapland is, and it's not frowned upon. So I guess, full penetrative sex, prostitution is illegal in Japan. So the soap...
Technically, yes, sure.
Technically, soap... I mean, this still goes on. Soapland is like a kind of a legal alternative to this, where basically a man would go there and he lays down and a woman would cover him in soapy water, and they wouldn't have sex per se, but then what she would do is she would slide her body all over him and the soapiness. And then there could be also, if they wanted to pay extra, they could get a happy ending. So, yeah. And apparently it's like a common thing. Like it's normal for like people to be out, like a group of guys to be out. One of them say, hey guys, I'm going to head over to Soapland. And it's just like normal. It's not
future?
even.
Like, is Japan the future?
Like, no, but the thing is, the interesting thing about like this, about you, what you were saying about how, you know, these economies have grown so much. And I almost think it's similar in the Western world, but again, to a lesser degree. But do you think that a lot of this economic growth almost comes at the cost of...
Yes, absolutely.
Of human interaction.
Of community, of human interaction, of family.
Yeah.
We're seeing it in, like, again, Asia is an extreme example. We're seeing it in Korea too. And again, another thing to note is that in Japan and Korea, they have the highest suicide rates in the developed world.
In the world.
I think Korea is number 1 and Japan is pretty closely number 2. So it's a very, these are problems that, did not happen again a few generations ago. So yeah, I do think that to some degree, we are going to see more and more of these problems arise from the rise in, the global economy. Because even just, I always talk about this, but it's like the breakdown of like having a community is already a big issue, because I think back when our parents were young, maybe, when my parents were young, they lived in, a neighborhood where everyone knew each other. And they would all like make kimchi. I talked about this.
I remember you telling me about the kimchi stuff.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Everyone would make kimchi on the same day. And then you would just go over to each other's houses and just like help each other make kimchi. Like that kind of like community was very normal. And if you needed like, I don't know, if you ran out of rice, you would just go to the next door and ask for some rice. And that would not really happen in modern day and age. And I do feel like that kind of stuff needs to be kind of, we need to kind of bring that kind of stuff back, because those interactions are crucial, right? Not just with romantic relationships, but just having communities. And the problem is now I see that, this is why when I think about like a relationship or, having a family, I think that that's why it's necessary, because if you are single in today's day and age, you're just going to be alone more likely than not. If you're living in a big city, you're going to live alone, maybe with a friend. But as you get older, maybe your friends are going to get married. And because of the breakdown of this community, and I know we're talking about breakdown of the family, but breakdown of a community is also, I think, something to be discussed.
No,
and
definitely.
So if you're single, then like, and you don't have your own immediate family, then you're just single.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
No, it is true. And I think that this is like, because the thing is, at the end of the day, as much as we like, think that we're this superior being or whatever, at the end of the day, we're animals, right? We are we're a species of animal. And one of the things is we're a social being, right? So you're right. Like if you have this breakdown of community and this sense of, belonging to a group of people, and you're right, as you get older and, if you are single, you don't have that family, you're going to be kind of more on your own. And I think it does do things to you. Like, I think it's something to be said. You're saying about like Japan and Korea are prime examples of, these huge amounts of suicide. And I think a big part of that is because, a lot of people that are single are by themselves and they don't have that kind of, because we talked about a big thing in Korea was that whole mukbang culture, which arose out of the fact that people are sitting at home eating dinner by themselves. So you have people that are not having a constant level of connection with others, and that can do stuff with your mind. Do you know what I mean? It makes you can cause anxiety, depression, all sorts of stuff, which can lead to people committing suicide, So I think that all of this stuff, you're right. I think we need to start looking at maybe bringing some of this stuff back or trying to like fix these, I don't know how to even, Daniel. I don't know. Goddamn.
Well, I saw a movie a few years ago. I think it was called like Happy or Happiness or something like that. It was a documentary. And I thought it was really interesting because one part of so they were showing different people's stories of like, how they're happy or something like that. And did you watch this? Did I recommend it to you? This was a few years ago.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. One of the stories was about a woman that was like really beautiful, like physically beautiful. Like she would win like beauty pageants and stuff. And she got into like an accident and her face got all messed up. And then she is talking about how she still found happiness. That's just one story. But another story, which I found really interesting, was I think this was somewhere in Scandinavia. It may have been like Denmark or something, where a woman was living in this like community where it's like what we you know, people have like old folks homes, old folks communities, but it wasn't just for old folks. It's just anyone could buy like let's say like a little house or a unit in this like community, and you would have your own space, like you would have your own house and everything. But then they would have a communal area where I think each household would make a meal for everybody, like taking turns, and then they would all eat together. So you're still part of like this like big extended family, but you also have your own. So you have like kids living there with their family, but also like single people living there. And I think that could be, you know, a good, I don't know, it could be good
solution. Yeah. But they say like it's so important, like these kind of community like initiatives and things like really like, you know, it does a lot, not just socially, but also, you know, I think also with regards to crime and things like that, like it can help so many different elements of being, it's basically that whole idea of feeling connected and belonging. Do you know what I mean? So the second you're like single and by yourself and isolated, you can really disconnect, and it can be, oh, God damn.
Oh God, did you hear that?
No.
There's a thunder right now.
Oh God! Please say it's not. God damn! Anyways. The heavens be the heavens be on us.
Oh God damn! But yeah,
so yeah, it's crazy, and you know, oh God, there is some big thunder. Yeah, it just like shook my house. Oh my God,
we're in the same city, Daniels.
God damn,
we gonna make a real connection very soon.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to see you. Okay, continue.
But yeah, just
finish. I love how we're talking about romance, and now we're just dissecting societal problems as we always do.
Actually, you know what? I think this is a really good topic to talk about, though, is like talking about the whole, like we could go into so much about the community, the breakdown of the community, and like maybe look at some stuff.
See, it's interesting how all of these romance issues, like dating issues, are all like elements of, you know, the society and the way that the society is structured. You know, like
it's all
women's rights, right? And it's all interlinked. Like how women getting jobs have created issues within the dating sphere, and like it's all really interesting.
Yeah.
Any other facts about Japan? Should we just make this whole episode about Japan? Because I think we're almost running out of time.
Because I think because the next one we were going to talk about, but we don't have time to go into it.
Buenos Aires.
Yeah, we're gonna have an episode dedicated to Argentina, one of Rose's favorite countries.
No. We could talk about Argentina. Unless is there more about Japan?
Yeah, there's some more. There's a little bit more stuff. So let's finish off with Japan, and then because again, it's interesting. We talked about this need for still that human contact and connection in Japan, and so as a side note, so Japan has this. So you have this issue of the herbivore man and everything else we talked about earlier, and then you have this. They call it a relationship replacement industry, which we talked about with the hosts and hostess clubs. They actually call it a relationship replacement industry.
Where they have fake girlfriends and fake boyfriends.
This kind of stuff.
Yes, I've heard of that too.
Yeah, and they have like this soapland, these cuddle cafes that you mentioned, where you can go and like someone like I don't know pats you on the head, snuggles with you.
Oh God.
This kind of stuff. And it's like crazy. And then there's also the idea of sex robots. There's a huge, huge sex industry in Japan, which shows you that although
they do want to have sex.
Exactly. People are still horny and they want to have sex. And one thing that they talked about, which was so awkward in the book. Do you remember the tanga, the egg?
No, tell me.
The masturbation egg.
What? Oh, is this like a sex toy?
Yeah. So apparently there was like a big thing, a big craze.
We gonna get demonetized on YouTube.
Oh God damn. Yeah, we are, but whatever. It is what it is. But they had this like egg that this company Tanga, I guess, came up with, and it was the future of doing masturbation. And yeah, it's crazy. Like,
was it incredibly popular? Did it sell like hotcakes?
I think it was really, really popular. And then I remember Aziz commenting, he's like, you know, he actually tried it.
I don't remember this part. Why do I not remember this?
Yeah, and he was like, I don't get the appeal of it, you know? And I guess in a symbolic sense, it was a kind of way of getting around not having like casual dating and sex, but I don't know. It's a weird thing. I don't know.
Okay, but the whole, again, another crazy thing about what's going on in Japan is this this idea of like renting a boyfriend, renting a girlfriend, and even renting a family. Have you seen, there's a video on YouTube that I watch as well where you can like literally rent a family. So you just hire people to come into your house and like kind of, you know, act like your mom, your dad, and you know, your sisters or whatever. And I think some people rent, like for example, some people will rent like a boyfriend to like go to a wedding with. So like the boyfriend will like, you know, act like a real boyfriend in front of, the relatives
Family,
or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
God.
it's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's weird to me because like,
why don't you just go get a boyfriend?
Exactly, because like if I went to a wedding, like a family's wedding, and I brought a boyfriend.
Well,
like,
no, they wouldn't know though.
Yeah, but my parents would be there. They would probably ask me like, why are you? Well, if my parents weren't there, I guess.
Well, you would probably say to your parents as well that it's your boyfriend. Like you're not going to be like, I rented a boyfriend. You would say, oh, hi, this is my boyfriend.
But then I guess like my parents would be like, well, how come we're just meeting this person now? Like, what the hell? Like, what is going on?
You might want to introduce your rent a boyfriend to your parents, a few months prior.
Yeah.
You got to introduce them.
You got to build the story, right? So you have you have to have the dinner with your friends where you introduce your rent a boyfriend. You're going to have to rent them a few times. You know what I mean?
They need to teach in schools. Well, first of all, they need to somehow get rid of these like idea of having separate girls and boys schools. Yeah. So that's one solution.
Yeah.
So that people can start interacting with each other, from a young age. Because that is one part of the problem where people are just they don't know how to interact with each other. And you just got to get people talking and being, and
connecting.
Humans.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's just like, it's mind blowing. So I guess like right now, I mean, and I think Japan is still like having these, these issues.
Yeah.
And
well,
again,
Korea also, goddamn.
Yeah. If you have men and women going on opposite trajectories, it's like, they're never going to meet in the middle and you're going to have consistently issues. But you know what? We need to do a trip to Japan, I want
to go to Japan. I heard it's really fun.
Yeah. I want to go so bad.
I think they're having some sales, Daniels. We should look at the flats.
Goddamn, well, I need to get a job first, okay? Once I get a job,
should we go to a Cuddle cafe?
Should we?
So Cuddle cafes, if you haven't heard of them, are pretty much exactly that, where people just go and pay money, and
I think
they get to cuddle with somebody. Oh my god, it's so cringy. I watched a thing about it, and it was like a girl dressed up and there's different services you could buy. So you could be like cuddle and like make eye contact. Or like cuddle and then they like pet you. So you pay extra for the petting and the eye contact. Yeah. Oh, and then, it's just, that is so sad.
I know.
Like how did humanity come to this point? Because I think, we need to look at the overall picture of humanity and not just point to Japan, because clearly, I mean, Japan is an extreme case. Yeah. But if we're not careful, other places could happen.
Exactly. And people be going to them cuddle cafes. I'm gonna say I don't want to visit one because I think it would just I think it would be really weird to me, the whole concept of like being in a thing and having somebody just come and cuddle me. Like, I don't know.
It's so weird. But they have cuddle parties even in like Canada and like US and stuff.
Really?
Where they just like cuddle each other. I don't know. It's a whole fringe group thing. I'm not judging anyone if they want to do that.
Yeah, true.
Maybe they enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, everyone does love a little cuddle, Like, I like being cuddled. But I don't.
Not by a random stranger.
Not by a stranger, no. I'd rather be cuddled by like somebody that, I knew.
Oh, God. God, it's... So basically, we're doomed.
Yeah. Oh, God.
That is once again the summary of our discussion. We're doomed.
That's true.
Well, I mean, I wonder what's going to happen with Japan. Hopefully, they can,
Well, I think,
and even in Korea.
Yeah,
who knows?
I think that, it's going to continue. I mean, obviously, in some ways, it's good that the government has already identified that this is a problem. So hopefully that they might even have a special love department in the government.
I think they do. I think they do.
Yeah. Could you imagine? Oh, what's your job title? Oh, I work in the love department in the Japanese government. I organize.
My job is to get people to bang.
To get together, get married. Mm-hmm. And apparently they have also marriage support programs in Japan where they'll like have like special trips and stuff for married couples.
Oh, that's nice. We should go to Japan. I should go and live in Japan.
I know. Well, once you meet somebody,
well, actually, I'd be too carnivorous for the Japanese
you
culture.
Would scare most of the Japanese men. Some of them will be fine, but
I would scare all the. See, but that's the thing. It's like if you were a Japanese guy, and you were even just like remotely like quote unquote manly,
yeah,
then like you would it'd be just a playing field for you. You know what I
wonder,
mean?
Yeah, I wonder if that's why. Well, I don't know because I don't know what the expat community is like in Japan, but I wonder if like expats that go there, they like especially men, more so men,
100%.
But like they must be so successful because
I've heard Japanese girls like Western men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then again, at the same time, if a Western woman went there, the Japanese men might be scared. I don't know. Oh God.
The Japanese men. Oh yeah, I think if it was the other way around, the guys would be scared of the women.
Yeah.
But women like the Japanese women like foreign men, I heard.
Yeah. It's interesting though. But I mean, I do want to put a little caveat. Like we know that like not all Japanese men are like that, but it is an overarching problem, and that's why there is an issue. And the stats speak for themselves, really. God damn.
Hold on. I just need to Google this for a second. Japan herbivore men.
Oh yeah.
I hate this terminology. It's so annoying. Whatever. You know what? It's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that. So yeah. That concludes.
Wait, I need to Google this.
Oh no, wait,
Hold on.
Rose is pulling something up on the lovely herbivore man.
Oh God, the rise of the herbivore men. Oh, apparently, okay. Look, the let's see. Come on. The herbivore man is not a vegetarian. Oh God. The sociologist Maki Fukasawa coined the term in 2006 to describe males who had next to no interest in marriage or romantic relationships. So it's not just men that are just pansies. It's like just men that have no interest.
Well, they say that they're not interested, but yet they'll still go to these. They do still seek like interaction. So I think it's wrong to say that they don't have any interest because they'll go to the host clubs or Soapland or whatever, so.
Oh God. Ever since that phrase was conceived, over 60% of Japanese men have self-identified as herbivore men.
Yeah. So it's a problem. It's
a problem. God. This is actually crazy. Even the government uses the term to categorize over 60% of young men who aren't having kids, as well as the high rate of male and female virgins throughout the country. Guys, it's an issue. It's an issue, guys. So, I don't know. Western men, go to Japan.
No, what are you going to do for
that's bad.
Exactly. I just think maybe there just needs to be.
Well, I mean, maybe the whole concept of having a mono ethnic culture should just be erased to begin with.
Yeah.
Why do we need like Japanese, like 100% Japanese people or 100% Korean people? It's like that kind of weird, ethnocentric. Is that the term? Like that kind of
ethnocentric
obsession with that doesn't necessarily have to be there. Like that's not really the problem.
Exactly. So I think. But I also think a good point is mixing like for the Japanese at least, mixing schools at a young age, get people interacting with each other from like a very young age so that it's not such a, because then they can make friendships of opposite sex and it can start building from there, right? So that's where it starts,
like making those friendships, because if you don't if you don't know how to make friends with the opposite sex, then that's going to be really difficult for you to even talk to the opposite sex. So that's probably a big problem. Oh God damn. So anyways, the whole, I feel like maybe we put a little too much emphasis on, like we must have more Japanese babies. I don't think that's the issue. It's more so that in the country, I guess one issue could be that the culture might die out if it, if it continues this way. I don't know. God damn.
Exactly. But I think that the main issue here that I mean, obviously the baby thing is a little bit of an issue because, obviously if you have a culture that is potentially could die out, but also I think that the main issue at the moment is just having that human level of interaction, I think that's there's something to be said about that. And it is really sad.
So much. It's so sad. That commercial with the holograph girlfriend, I was like, cause they made it seem like, like, oh my God, this is, I have a girlfriend. Yeah. But it was just so sad. Even the commercial was so sad.
And people take them to like restaurants and stuff.
Oh my God. Like at the end, basically the guy is going to bed. And then he was like, it's so nice to have someone care for me or something like that. Or something so sad. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah. This is the thing. It sounds like they just need a hug. You know what I mean? Like
they just need a hug?
they're going to the Cuddle Cafe, paying for it. You know, someone
Yeah.
give them a free hug. Give somebody a hug. You know,
It's just so sad because it's a country full of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a full of people that could potentially be, just
together
commingling.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you not? Why? There's so much opportunity. There's so much jam.
I know. It's crazy. Well, I watched this one episode of, the TV series Queer Eye. They do a Queer Eye in Japan.
Oh,
and
shit.
One of the makeovers was this guy and his wife, and they were having some marital issues. And they hadn't been together, slept together for a long time.
Right.
And the guy, again, he was really nervous, really shy, and they were trying to bring him out of his shell. And, it was really interesting to watch. And, they had some stuff that they needed to talk through. And he finally opened up in some ways with his wife and everything else. It was nice. But again, it showed, that culture of, not talking about things and being kind of like a timid guy that's always smiling, always, pleasing and, this kind of stuff. So
sad.
It's crazy.
Well, there you go, guys. Instead of talking about modern romance, we talked about the societal issues of Asia. Hope you enjoyed.
No, but it has to do with international dating.
Does.
So it brought it kind of full circle. So
I guess we're talking about the love life in Argentina in the next episode. Is that what's happening, Daniel?
That is going to happen. That's going to be a hot one, Rose.
Oh, goddamn. It's going to be opposite of the Japan problem.
No, but they have their own issues there, believe me.
Yeah. Oh, God. Humans, we have so many issues as human beings. Goddamn.
Oh, goddamn. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Again, thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us on Instagram at the SaVeg Podcast. And what else? I don't know. I lost my
Wow, Daniel, you're always so great at this.
Do you want to
Check
do
us out on
Rose?
Patreon, guys, to get the episodes early. It is patreon.com/the SaVeg Podcast. We also do bonus episodes as always. And of course, thank you so much for listening. And we will speak to you in the next episode.
Yeah. Bye guys.